as you know, Kyrgyzstan is one Central Asian country which is very close to the accession. We started official talks about accession to the Union as early as in 2011, and we spent 3 years thinking about that, talking to members of the Union, and finally we adopted roadmap of accession in May 2014, and very quickly, in December 2014, we already signed accession treaty. This treaty is to be ratified by the Parliament of Kyrgyzstan, but also the parliaments of all member countries, all 4 member countries, which is expected to be done by May this year, which is maybe or may not be optimistic. So that's kind of working date we operate now, our government operates now. Well, I think it's very much political, and we are implementing what is written in the roadmap, but many things are still remain to be done. Still, I think political view on all sides is there, so we are pretty confident at this moment that Kyrgyzstan is going to become a member of the Union this year. First, I would like to spend a little bit of time to stress the linkages between Kyrgyzstan and countries of Eurasian Economic Union, even regardless of their memberships in the Union. These countries are already very big partners, in particular Russia and Kazakhstan, of course. 29% of Kyrgyz's total exports go to these 2 countries. We receive 42% of our imports from these 2 countries. Labor migration is a huge issue for our country, and more than 95% of our labor migrants go to Russia and to a less extent to Kazakhstan. We receive remittances as of 2014 in the equivalent of 1/3 of the GDP, of our GDP. And 98% of these remittances come from Russia and Kazakhstan, mostly from Russia, of course. Even on such variable as FDI, we still receive 13% of FDI coming to the country from Russia and Kazakhstan. And here, Kazakhstan is a bit bigger than Russia, because it's next door, and many things are more clear and comfortable for Kazakh investors in relative perspective. I would like also to stress that Kyrgyz economy is very much open to shocks coming from the Eurasian Union, even regardless of our membership there. If we were not members, and still we are very much vulnerable. When in 1st July 2011, the common external customs border of the customs union went to the Kyrgyz-Kazakh border, we started immediately feel this as a shock, negative shock for us, because it was relatively easy to cross Kyrgyz-Kazakh border before this date, and it became much more complex after this date, and that's clear effect, and it's like main border for us. It's window to the outer world. And then now, even in 2014, we were not members, but we feel very strong shock from Russian crisis, and in particular ruble devaluation, and on many directions. Inflation and decline in remittances and decline in exports. Many of these effects are going to materialize now in 2015, but they are going to materialize. We have so many evidence already, so no doubt about that. And this leads me to a very important statement that on this background, our accession to the Eurasian Economic Union may have smaller effects than other things. We are already very much exposed to the developments in Russia and Kazakhstan and other countries of the Union. So, and we have just our accession on the top of these developments. So what is going to change when we accede to the Union? First, we have to adopt the common customs tariff of the Eurasian Economic Union. It will be quite a major shift. So Kyrgyzstan is famous to have very liberal imports regime so far, extremely liberal, I would say. And as a matter of fact, according to our estimations, weighted average ad valorem equivalent applied tariff, which is also inclusive of VAT, is going to increase some 18%, quite a substantial change. We are going to give up simplified customs clearance regime in trade with China, which is very big because for people who are knowledgeable about the region knows that Kyrgyzstan plays a very important role in the regional flows of goods from China to markets of the Eurasian Economic Union. So goods go through Kyrgyzstan, from China to Kyrgyzstan, and then from Kyrgyzstan to Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, to Tajikistan, some other places. And the legal background for that is this simplified customs clearing regime, which is based not on customs value, but based on weight of the imported goods. So this is going to be abandoned. And this is going to be price shock. Also, we are going on the positive side. We expect elimination of the Kyrgyz-Kazakh customs border. If you monitor Kyrgyz media, that's the something which is being discussed by our business people, like eagerly waiting for this change. That's something which they care about, indeed. These re-exporters and our exporters, everybody thinks about it. On the other side, which is much less discussed, we are going to have tightening control, customs controls on our borders, which become external borders of the Eurasian Union, border with China, border with Tajikistan, and border with Uzbekistan. With China, we have already quite a serious border, so there should be some technical upgrades and some stricter controls, but no dramatic change. Our borders with Tajikistan and Uzbekistan are quite transparent, porous, if you wish. How we are going to seal them, that's an open question, not clear, neither from technical point of view, nor from economic, nor from political. Just open question, nobody is going to discuss this in the society. So that's quite a big issue. Well, with Tajikistan, perhaps it may not be that big issue if Tajikistan is going to join soon, which is not guaranteed. Uzbekistan is not going to join. So what is the destiny of this border is a very good question. Another very important shock, which is, in my view, is most positive and negative, is adoption of the Eurasian Union's technical regulations and standards. This is positive because so far we are not doing good in terms of technical regulations, and many products are substandard, and the veterinary, phytosanitary, and other controls and quality is not there. So we really need to care about such things just for domestic market, not only for export market, but just for domestic market considerations. So that may be a useful boost to start thinking about such things. On the other side, it is extremely expensive, and well, it's easy to say than to do in reality. That's something which is really requires a lot of time and quite a lot of investment. To address that, Russia and Kyrgyzstan already established development funds with capitalization now $100 million US, and it was promised to increase as much as 1 billion eventually, sometime in the medium term, in a few years. And this money are going to be spent to help Kyrgyz economy to adjust to the conditions of the Eurasian Union. That's a lot of money for Kyrgyz Republic. We also are going to receive technical assistance from Russia, and lately Kazakhstan promised also to contribute to strengthen our customs and quality infrastructure, all these labs and similar things. Finally, again, last but not the least, we are going to get some increase in our government's revenue due to the system Eurasian Union uses in its sharing import duties. We received quite generous allotment, 1.9% of total import duty collections in all countries of the Union, which is much more than we collect ourselves now. This should be put in the perspective because, well, some people in Kyrgyzstan are very much excited about that. They just took 2013 collections, applied the share, received big number, and are happy. However, we all know that Russia in 2015 is not going to have that big imports as they had in 2013, so this share will be in absolute terms smaller, but still more than we get ourselves. So what is the expected economic impact of the accession? Well, what I'm reporting here is work in progress, so after some thinking, I decided to refrain from providing any numbers. There will be numbers assigned to these qualitative assessments, but so far I don't think it is a good idea to share that. So on re-exports, that's the sector which is expected to be affected the most. So the very rationale to bring commodities through Kyrgyzstan rather than sending them directly to Russia, for example, or to Kazakhstan, is because you can save on the taxes on the Kyrgyz-Kazakh border, on the Kyrgyz-Chinese border, sorry. Now, if you accept the same tax regime as Kazakhstan, so there is no such advantage. So one sort of projection, some people forecast just complete elimination of this business, which I'm not that skeptical. I do believe this business is going to shrink, but it is reducing in size already for several years for different reasons, just because of basically issues on Chinese side. Wages in China are growing, Chinese goods become more expensive, so it's really, tax issue becomes less important for the re-exports. So that is like long-term trend. We apply to that shock on tariff shock, so it will be like decline will be large and happen in very short period of time. Still, we expect that this business would stay at smaller scale, just because we have a lot of business people who know how to handle that. And that's business knowledge is very important. They know where to buy in China, where to sell in Russia, what is sellable, etc. This knowledge is going to stay with our business people. So this business is going to continue to some probably smaller extent. Another sector to be affected is agriculture and food processing. So we produce and we sell quite a bit of our agricultural produce to Russia and Kazakhstan, and the border problems was very important. So, well, when you have perishable goods like berries, and you try to sell them to Kazakhstan, if you wait like 24 hours on the border, you can go back already with these berries because they are not marketable anymore. So if we eliminate this border, this kind of trade is going to, there will be some relief for that kind of trade. And so we can expect some boost, and if it's supported by some investment in the processing, into logistics, into consolidation, sorting, cold storage, etc., we can expect some improvement in this sector. Also, this may mean an important structural change for our economy, shift from subsistence crops. We grow a lot of wheat, which Kyrgyzstan is not really supposed to grow, and well, we have major producers of good wheat like Kazakhstan and Russia next door. So eventually, maybe not that year, but in the medium term, we may have some replacement of subsistence crops by cash crops. So it's better to grow something you can sell at a higher price in Kazakhstan or Russia, and replace the wheat which doesn't produce that much in income for the farmers. A lot of domestic issues are involved in that, so that's a potential. This is no guarantee that this is going to materialize, but there is a chance, a substantial chance. And another big industry related to this market is garment industry. Based on cheap Chinese inputs, we developed a garment industry which feeds very well like low and medium segment of Russian and Kazakh markets. And this business suffered again from the delays and complications on the Kazakh-Kyrgyz border. So if these complications go out, there will be some positive stimulus for this business. On the other side, Chinese inputs are going to become more expensive. But that's not going to be a very dramatic thing. Importantly, it's an interesting link to previous discussion on the last session, that the tariffs, Russian tariffs against Chinese goods, were very high a few years ago. But now, with this gradual transition of Russian tariffs to the final bound rates, they are already much less an issue today. They are still an issue, but it's not that dramatic penalizing thing which they used to be even 3 years ago. So now even we introduced the common customs tariff of the Eurasian Union. This is not probably isn't going to kill our garment industry, and industry representatives are quite confident they can cope with it very, very easily. Again, for this trade, if it becomes like more commercial, more sustainable, this may induce a shift from small enterprises, which dominates the business, this industry, to more medium-sized enterprises, which is probably good from the perspective of business development and productivity, but not that good from the point of view of employment. So our country is a small and medium business country as of now, and more small than medium. So perhaps as a result of this change, small may become smaller, and medium may take a larger share. On other foreign trades, we probably would have some limited trade creation, which I mentioned already, in terms of agriculture and food. Some obvious trade diversion, like look at Kazakhstan, with cars. We import a lot of used cars from Europe and from Japan. This is going to stop. Well, we still have some transition arrangements, but nevertheless, this is going to become much more expensive. So there will be switch to some other, like some cars which are produced in the Union or in Uzbekistan. And this also relates to some equipment. And we also may have some import substitution. For example, on garments, our businesses not only work on export, but they also work on domestic market, and they compete with Chinese producers on that market. As Chinese goods are going to become more expensive, then perhaps a little bit more room for domestic producers. This is not big market also. Inflation, because of tariffs and because of partial outflow of our agricultural produce to the markets of the Union, you may expect some inflation. It's difficult to assess it. It's maybe 2-3% increase. So it's not going to be dramatic, especially on the background of dramatic inflation pressure from the devaluation of ruble and devaluation of our currency, which has to follow somehow to the ruble. Migration and remittances. This sector very much suffers from the Russian crisis and from the devaluation of ruble. So just provide you a couple of numbers. For a long period of time, 1 ruble was 1.5 Kyrgyz som on currency. Today it is 1 to 1. So people who sent 1,000 rubles back, it was 1,500 years ago, now it is 1,000. So it's dramatic decline in remittances. But this should be distinguished from the effects of the Eurasian Union as such. So the effect may be minor and maybe on the positive side. The legal position of our migrants on the Russian market is going to slightly strengthen, not dramatically, but well, some improvement is expected. So the accession may soften the situation. Finally, on government budget, we are going to benefit from these import duties, which I mentioned already, and also, so far, imports from China of these re-exported goods, they are not taxable by VAT. That's part of our favorable regime. Now they have to be, VAT should be levied on these goods, and as a consequence, from zero, we are going to have some improvement, which will be, so on government budget side, we most confident we will have an improvement. So some summarizing. Accession will be important change, but not as dramatic as the consequences of the Russian economic crisis. So regardless of our accession, we are very much linked to the Union, countries of the Union, and what is their problems, their modern problems are our problems. In the short term, we may expect neutral or moderately negative economic impact from the accession. On the medium term, if everything goes right, we have moderately positive impact or neutral in a more pessimistic case. And again, well, it's pretty common statement that the most of chances of success or failure depend not on our negotiations with Russia or Kazakhstan, but on our own behind the border business, whether or not we implement reforms which are badly needed and widely discussed in the society. So my main message is that it used to be a very big issue. Today it is relatively, well, not minor, but secondary issue.